This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Monday, July 8th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Beryl expected to make landfall along the Texas coastline as a hurricane.
It will be a deadly storm.
I'm Julie Walker.
The president on the campaign trail as more lawmakers urge him to drop out.
But he should seek out people with some distance and objectivity.
I'm Steve Futterman.
A Philadelphia radio station cuts ties with a host over her President Biden interview. I'm Pamela Furr.
The top court in Kansas votes in favor of abortion access. I'm Shelley Adler.
On Wall Street, more record highs for the major averages last Friday. Investors are waiting for the latest on inflation. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Boeing to plead guilty and hit with massive fines. Then warnings issued for scammers targeting the elderly. All ahead on America in the Morning. Thousands of people in Texas are preparing for torrential rains, life-threatening storm surge, and damaging winds as Beryl is expected to slam into the Lone Star State between Corpus Christi and Galveston. Correspondent Julie Walker has the latest.
I have issued a mandatory evacuation for all of Refugio County, effective immediately. I would rather be cautious and let Tropical Storm Beryl come crawling in with a little bit of rain and a little bit of wind to an empty Refugio County than the alternative if it were to strengthen more than the predictions.
Beryl expected to make landfall along the Texas coastline as a hurricane, according to officials.
We have been preparing for the last week, and we are going to now looking at being ready to go into our recovery mode next. And that will begin once this storm hits landfall. You'll start seeing the winds pick up, some rain coming into some of these areas.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has a message for residents and visitors.
It will be a deadly storm for people who are directly in that path.
He says the state is prepared, but people have to do their part.
I know from my own life experience, well, they always predict more and they say more, then nothing happens. Let's pray nothing happens where you live. But something is going to happen where some of you live. And that something will be significant wind, significant rain, and some flooding. And again, surge along the coast.
In Port Lavaca, Jimmy May was boarding up his business.
Just boarding up, protecting this glass in case we get a little bit too much wind, too much trash blowing.
Beryl caused at least 11 deaths as it passed through the Caribbean on its way to Texas.
If you're between Corpus and Galveston, be prepared. Be prepared as we are trying to prepare here. Look, our number one mission in the state and NIMKID's number one mission and your local mayors and your local county judges and officials is to save your life. That's number one. Property can be rebuilt, but lives cannot be.
I'm Julie Walker.
Questions continue to swirl surrounding President Biden's election chances. As he campaigned in Pennsylvania, House Democrats met to discuss his future, and some House leaders are openly displaying skepticism of whether he has what it takes to win in November. Steve Futterman reports.
Joe Biden is still the presumptive Democratic nominee, but more and more Democratic lawmakers are questioning whether he should remain in the race or get out. The biggest name to speak out yesterday was California Representative Adam Schiff.
The performance on the debate stage, I think, rightfully raised questions among the American people about whether the president has the vigor to defeat Donald Trump.
On NBC's Meet the Press, Schiff did not call for the president to end his reelection campaign. But in what seemed to be very carefully chosen words, he in no way gave Mr. Biden a ringing endorsement.
What I would advise the president is seek out the opinions of people you trust. He's obviously talked to his family about this, and that's important. But he should seek out people with some distance and objectivity. He should seek out pollsters who are not his own pollsters.
For his part yesterday, Mr. Biden was on the campaign trail in the battleground state of Pennsylvania.
So we got a lot to do, folks, but we can do it. We're on the cusp of getting so much done. I really mean it. We're going to get a hell of a lot done for the American people.
He didn't talk about the controversy hanging over him. Those questions he hopes were answered on Friday night.
If the Lord Almighty came out and said, Joe, get out of the race, I'll get out of the race. The Lord Almighty's not coming down.
During an exclusive interview with ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos, Mr. Biden was asked very direct and very personal questions.
Do you dispute that there have been more lapses, especially in the last several months?
Can I run the 110 flat? No. But I'm still in good shape.
Are you more frail?
No.
The interview didn't change the mind of Texas Democratic Congressman Lloyd Dockett. He told CNN,
We may not be the Lord Almighty calling from on high, but the risk of a Trump presidency is so great that we have to have our strongest candidate.
To be sure, the president has his supporters, but as each day goes by, more lawmakers are urging him to drop out. One of the latest yesterday, New York Congressman Jerry Nadler. And the Democratic convention is still more than 2 months away. I'm Steve Futterman.
Republican-backed abortion bills defeated. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Update on Beryl, an on-again, off-again hurricane. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
The first U.S. landfalling tropical system, Beryl, is moving into Texas first thing this morning, having recently made landfall along the Texas coast near East Matagorda Bay. As Beryl continues inland, there will continue to be significant impacts throughout the day with heavy rain, a storm surge, damaging winds, and even the risk for a tornado. A storm surge of over 6 feet will lead to significant inland flooding for the coastal areas, mainly just to the north of the storm center. But up to 3 feet of a storm surge can occur as far south as the Texas coast and as far east as western Louisiana. Damaging wind gusts of up to 100 miles per hour will be possible near the storm center as well first thing this morning, but will lose wind intensity quickly as it moves northward today and tonight. As Beryl continues northward in East Texas, a significant band of rain of 8 to 12 inches will fall, including the city of Houston. Texas will also have a frontal system producing some showers and thunderstorms through the northwestern part of the state into Oklahoma, as well as northern Arkansas into southern Missouri. The rest of the nation will be largely quiet with scattered afternoon thunderstorms through the rest of Missouri northward to the Great Lakes, and then as well as a good portion of the southeast into the middle Atlantic. The west, meanwhile, will remain scorching hot. High pressure will continue to provide the area with abundant sunshine, record-breaking heat. Las Vegas, Nevada crushed its all-time record high on Sunday, reaching 120 degrees. That's the weather across America. Portland, Oregon will be feeling the heat today with plenty of sunshine and a high of 102. Milwaukee, Wisconsin will have plenty of clouds today with a thunderstorm and a more comfortable afternoon with a high of 77. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. A Philadelphia radio station has parted ways with a host who interviewed President Biden and admitted asking questions that were provided by his reelection campaign. Pamela Furr has the details.
Same thing that was said to me when I was
Andrea Lawful Sanders, who hosted the show called The Source on Word 96.1 FM, was the first person to get a post-debate interview with the president last Wednesday.
I had a bad debate. I had a bad debate.
But over the weekend, she revealed she was given 8 questions by the Biden campaign and used 4 of them, her only questions to the president, which by most journalistic standards considered a no-no. Sarah Lomax, Word's president and CEO, released a statement saying it, quote, violated our practice of remaining an independent media outlet accountable to our listeners. She goes on to say, as a result, Ms. Lawful Sanders and Word Radio have mutually agreed to part ways effective immediately. But she's not the only one to use questions provided by the Biden campaign. Earl Ingram, a host on Milwaukee's WMCS, says he too was given questions in advance and chose to use them. Some media outlets have noted this is certainly not the way to prove Biden is as competent as he has claimed to be after the disastrous debate. Regardless, the campaign says the provided questions were not conditional on getting an interview with President Biden, and hosts were free to ask what they wanted to ask. I'm Pamela Furr.
The Kansas Supreme Court, by a wide margin, has rejected 2 Republican-backed abortion regulations, reaffirming state constitutionality-protected access to the procedure. Correspondent Shelley Adler explains.
The highest court in Kansas has strongly reaffirmed that the state constitution protects abortion access. They struck down a ban on a common second trimester procedure and laws regulating abortion providers more strictly than other healthcare providers. The decisions came almost 2 years after an August 2022 statewide vote decisively affirming abortion rights, the first such vote after the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision that allowed states to ban abortion altogether. Kansas voters rejected a proposed change in the state constitution approved by the Republican-controlled legislature to declare that the document provides no right to abortion. I'm Shelley Adler.
When we return on America in the Morning, more all-time highs in the stock market and Americans' insatiable appetite for travel after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. The Business Report is sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Let's get after the Monday Report with CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning again after Friday's full trading session. The S&P 500 index and the NASDAQ each hit fresh all-time highs.
We've had a huge rally. These markets are high. And sooner or later, we're going to have a significant correction. And what I know about previous corrections is when you're in a correction, you don't want to be in the most expensive stuff. I think it's a time when people need to be very careful about diversifying their exposure and not being overexposed to the most expensive names.
JP Morgan's David Kelly on CNBC. The U.S. added more jobs in June than expected, 206,000, a sign of continued economic strength. The unemployment rate ticked higher, up to a still low 4.1%. The jobs report was out Friday morning.
74% of the jobs came from government and healthcare and education. It's not the federal government. A lot of it is local government jobs. They seem to be still hiring in those municipalities. The hospitals up 22,000.
CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman. Now, the data show that overall, the U.S. economy is definitely slowing.
Across the board jobs, initial claims are up, JOLTS were weak, ADP weak. So non-farm payrolls today with the revisions, I thought was very soft. Not a surprise based on all the other data points that I just mentioned. But we're seeing a slowdown in the economy, and that's helping inflation. But we better not slow anymore, because then we're going to be in real problem territory.
Hightower's Stephanie Link on CNBC. Insurance companies assessing the damage from Beryl as it ripped through the Caribbean and slammed some of Mexico's top beaches near Cozumel and Cancun. Parents will spend more than 20% more this year on back-to-school shopping. Retail Dive cites a JLL survey showing that Walmart, Target, and Amazon continue to dominate the top list of places parents will shop, and parents will shell out a total of $475 per child.
Well, despite the economy, the travel boom doesn't seem to be slowing anytime soon.
You know, consumers are complaining. There's still things that are too expensive, but people are still opening their wallets to travel, and flights from the U.S. to Europe are full this summer.
The demand story still remains strong. We had the latest data from MasterCard, which shows travelers' intentions to go overseas remains high, helped in part by lower airfare. The May inflation report did show that airfare prices dropped by 6% year over year. And then there's those major events this summer driving interest to Europe, from Taylor Swift Eras Tour, the Euro Cup, to the Paris Olympics.
CNBC's Seema Modi. On this week's watch list, we get the latest on inflation. That's a biggie on Thursday with the CPI. Earnings season starts Friday. Today, we get the latest on consumer credit. And Walmart's Deals for Days sale started this morning. It runs through Thursday, up against the Target Circle Week sale that started yesterday.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, scammers target the elderly after these messages. Back with you now. This is America in the Morning. Jet maker Boeing has agreed to plead guilty today in federal court to a criminal fraud charge tied to the two fatal 737 MAX crashes in 2018 and 2019. Under the deal, Boeing would pay a fine of more than $243 million. An independent monitor would also be installed to oversee compliance at Boeing for 3 years, and the company would have to invest at least $455 million in compliance and safety programs. The deal would also brand the company a felon and could complicate its ability to sell to the U.S. government. Well, shifting gears, groups, including the AARP, are sounding the alarm about scammers increasingly targeting the elderly. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
The AARP's Fraud Watch Network director says internet telephone scams have grown exponentially, and police and prosecutors often can't catch or convict the criminals. In one case from Ohio, an 81-year-old man victimized by a scammer fatally shot an Uber driver, thinking she was in on a plot to extort thousands from him. An 80-year-old man in San Diego swindled out of nearly $700,000 in a scheme involving a purported Amazon order and a fake refund processing center in Hong Kong. The Justice Department is calling on tech, retail, banking, and telecommunications sectors to make it harder for criminals to succeed. I'm Jackie Quinn.
America in the Morning for Monday, July 8th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Beryl expected to make landfall along the Texas coastline as a hurricane.
It will be a deadly storm.
I'm Julie Walker.
More key Democrats on the record asking President Biden to end his candidacy.
Shooting with multiple shots on Akron Street.
Deadly shootings over the holiday weekend. I'm Bob Brown.
Texas Parks and Wildlife says 2 people were hospitalized after shark attacks at South Padre Island on July 4th. I'm Jennifer King.
Multiple injuries have been reported after fireworks veered into the crowd at a Utah stadium. I'm Mike Hempen.
Animated family films are dominating the box office. I'm Kevin Carr.
Alec Baldwin on trial in the fatal Rust film shooting. Back after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Whether a hurricane or tropical storm, Beryl sure has had its impact. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy with an update.
Beryl is the first landfalling tropical system of this season in the U.S., having recently made landfall along the Texas coast near East Matagorda Bay. As Beryl continues inland, there will be significant impacts throughout the day with heavy rain, a strong storm surge, damaging winds, and even the risk for a tornado. A storm surge of over 6 feet will lead to significant inland flooding for the coastal areas, mainly just to the north of the storm center, but up to 3 feet of a storm surge can advance as far south as the South Texas coast and as far east as western Louisiana. Damaging wind gusts of up to 100 miles per hour will be possible near the storm center first thing this morning, but it will lose wind intensity quickly as it moves northward today and tonight. And as Beryl continues northward in East Texas, significant rain of 8 to 12 inches will fall, including in the city of Houston. Texas will also have a frontal system producing some showers and thunderstorms through the northwestern part of the state into Oklahoma and northern Arkansas and southern Missouri. The rest of the nation will be largely quiet with scattered afternoon thunderstorms through the rest of Missouri northward to the western Great Lakes, as well as a good portion of the southeast into the middle Atlantic. The west, meanwhile, will remain scorching hot. High pressure will continue to provide the area with abundant sunshine and record-breaking heat. Las Vegas, Nevada crushed its all-time record high on Sunday, reaching 120 degrees, and afternoons for the rest of the week will break daily records for the city. The impacts from the heat will continue to be widespread through the northwest into the California valleys, and the eastern U.S. will have a heat of its own with some humidity. Highs will be mainly in the 90s. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Hundreds of thousands of our fellow Americans are preparing in Texas as Beryl, which blazed a path of destruction through parts of the Caribbean and Mexico, has become an unwelcomed menace in the U.S. It'll be a rough next 24 hours for the region. As correspondent Julie Walker reports, people in the Lone Star State are not taking any chances, with businesses boarding up windows and evacuation orders in place.
The flooding is a big issue. If it stalls out and it hangs around, because even not stalling out, we're in an area where it's supposed to be like 8 to 10 inches of rain.
We're preparing to close down Monday. Just one thing at a time. I mean, it's playing it by ear.
The voluntary evacuation is to prevent someone from being unable to leave.
We do a lot of planning because it's hard to project where these storms ultimately end up. But we're planning right now for a Category 2 storm in terms of rain amounts, in terms of flooding.
Surfside Beach, Texas, earning its name with heavy surf ahead of Beryl's official landfall Monday. Freeport resident Mark Richardson says the surf went from 1.5 to 10 feet in a day.
Yesterday was the surf was like a 1.5 foot swell, and this morning it was about 6, and it's increased up to now where it's about 8 to 10 foot swells. So that's pretty big. That's not, the ocean is getting very angry very fast.
So he's getting ready.
We're trying to tie everything down, move everything where it can't fly across into other people's houses.
We're expecting a dangerous storm surge 4 to 6 feet above ground as possible from Mesquite Bay, Texas to San Luis Pass, including Matagorda Bay. We're also expecting very heavy rainfall, 5 to 10 inches of rain with localized amounts to 15. This can cause some flash flooding, especially across portions of the Texas Gulf Coast and eastern Texas.
The National Hurricane Center's Eric Blake telling residents to prepare.
We're kind of expecting a Category 1 or maybe a Category 2 hurricane. So the wind threat is there, but it's kind of a combination of everything. The 4 to 6 feet of storm surge, the heavy rainfall up to 15 inches in places is also a significant risk.
I'm Julie Walker.
The calls within the Democrat Party for President Joe Biden to end his 2024 bid for re-election is growing. During a Zoom call with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, several senior Democrats, including New York's Jerry Nadler, said that it was time for the president to end his challenge, while several others, including Maryland's Jamie Raskin, expressed skepticism over his chances of prevailing against Donald Trump. As correspondent Jackie Quinn reports, the president spent Sunday campaigning in the key battleground state of Pennsylvania, showing no desire to end his candidacy.
Just like he's did it before in 2020, and he's going to do this right now, Joe Biden has held every line. 2 wars, a pandemic. Look at our economy.
President Biden enjoyed an exuberant welcome at a predominantly black church in Philadelphia, where leaders urged him to stay in the race.
President Biden is coming back. He's a comeback kid.
With pastors and parishioners cheering him on, President Biden says he's worked hard for the black community, and there's more to do.
To ensure you can follow your dreams without the burden of student debt. To make housing affordable, help more black families build wealth and pass it on to future generations. To keep our community safe by getting weapons of war off our streets. To give hate no safe harbor.
He joked about his age.
I know I won't look like I'm 40 years old, but I've been around a little bit.
Biden's attendance at church and a rally with union members are designed to project strength as a swell of Democrats, alarmed by the president's debate performance, suggest he drop out of the race.
Folks, I know with every fiber of my being, I know I won't look like I'm 40 years old, but I've been around a little bit. The bishop and I were talking about that. It's heck turning 40. Well, all kidding aside, I've been doing this a long time, and I, honest to God, have never been more optimistic about America's future if we stick together. I really mean it.
I'm Jackie Quinn.
Millions of Americans celebrating the 4th of July holiday will be heading back to work today, but for some, those celebrations turned violent across the nation with a number of deadly shootings. Bob Brown has that story.
Police continue to investigate a series of deadly shootings coming off the holiday weekend. A 911 call coming in of a shooting in Temple Hills, Maryland, near Washington, D.C.
Shooting with multiple shots on Akron Street.
Emergency responders fearing the worst.
We have one child that was shot in the head.
Investigators say 6-year-old Ashawn Payton died Saturday night following a 4th of July celebration in his neighborhood. WRC-TV talking with this man who was there.
What were you thinking? Did you realize it was shots? Did you think it was fireworks?
I thought it was fireworks, but I asked what's going on. They said they were shooting up the street.
And what do you think about what happened down here?
Sad situation.
2 adults were also struck by gunfire but are expected to survive. Meantime, in Florence, Kentucky, a suburb of Cincinnati, 4 people were killed and 3 hurt in a mass shooting. And in Detroit, 2 people were killed and more than a dozen hurt in a mass shooting at a block party. There was also a shooting at Yellowstone National Park in Canyon Village, leaving a man dead and a park ranger hurt after the man reportedly was threatening people. And in New York City, police say 2 kids were shot at a McDonald's in the Bronx Saturday night. They say the 12 and 13-year-old boys are expected to survive. I'm Bob Brown.
When America in the Morning returns, voting plan approved in Wisconsin, and stealing cryptocurrency. We're back after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. The Wisconsin Supreme Court has ruled on whether or not the state can allow for absentee ballot drop boxes to be in place for the 2024 general election. Correspondent Shelley Adler reports.
The decision overturns the court's own ruling 2 years ago, which limited the use of drop boxes in the presidential swing state. The difference has to do with the makeup of the court. Conservatives controlled the state Supreme Court 2 years ago, but in April of last year, the court was flipped to Democratic control. Seeing an opening, Priorities USA, a progressive voter mobilization group, asked the court to revisit the decision a few months ago. President Joe Biden barely won Wisconsin in 2020, and Donald Trump narrowly took it in 2016. Democrats believe that making it easier to vote absentee will boost turnout for their side. I'm Shelley Adler.
We've reported on a number of shark attack incidents in the past few weeks, many happening on Gulf Coast beaches in Florida and Alabama and also in Hawaii. Correspondent Jennifer King reports on 2 shark attacks over the weekend at South Padre Island in Texas.
Texas Parks and Wildlife says 2 people were hospitalized after shark attacks at South Padre Island on July 4th. 2 others encountered the shark but were not seriously hurt.
Started swimming towards him, and then he jumped up out of the water saying, "Shark, shark, shark."
Rainer Cardenas tells KRGV his son-in-law was the first victim and received a severe bite as they swam near Blackbeard's restaurant.
Adrenaline kicked in, and I went right after him.
Brian McDaniel of New Brunsville says he saw the response to the first attack.
I saw everyone running towards this guy. And I went out there too, and this guy was getting pulled out of the water with a big shark bite.
Sharks are plentiful along the Texas coast. The South Padre Island Fire Chief Jim Pigg says it's unusual to have a shark attack there.
The last time I saw anything like this was about 8 years ago.
Game Warden Captain Chris Dowdy says officials believe a single shark about 6 feet long was responsible, and that it has moved out to deeper water.
They all look like where he's just trying to find, or it's trying to find something to eat. He takes a bite, doesn't like it, and he moves on.
Audio courtesy KRGV. I'm Jennifer King.
Officials in Florida reported a man wading into the water in an inner tube was bitten by a shark at New Smyrna Beach in the Atlantic Ocean. Just yesterday, the second incident involving a shark in that same area within 24 hours. Authorities continue to investigate a fireworks display gone wrong in Utah. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports there were a number of people injured when a misfire sent fireworks into a crowd at a stadium concert.
Authorities say 6 people have been hospitalized after a fireworks accident during Thursday's 4th of July celebration. Fireworks veered into the stands at Provo's annual Freedom Festival at Lavelle Edwards Stadium on the Brigham Young University campus. The audio courtesy of Teresa Jack, a spectator who was watching the show from the field. She says she saw a rocket fly over her head and into the stadium's east stands, explode, and send a big cloud of smoke into the air. Organizers stopped the show for about 15 minutes, while injured audience members received medical attention. A festival spokeswoman says the cause of the mishap is under investigation. I'm Mike Hempen.
Stealing cryptocurrency is not easy, but hackers have more than doubled their ill-gotten gains in the past year. Here's tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
2024 has been a banner year for hackers. The amount of cryptocurrency stolen in hacks globally has more than doubled in the first 6 months of this year. Hackers have stolen more than $1.38 billion worth of crypto since June of 2024, compared with $657 million the same period in 2023. Ari Redboard, global head of policy at TRM Labs, said that while we have not seen any fundamental changes in security of cryptocurrency ecosystem, we have seen a significant increase in the value of various tokens. Crypto prices are up since the low of 2022, with Bitcoin hitting an all-time high of 73,803 in March of this year. Cryptocurrency companies are frequent targets for hacks and cyber attacks, but losses on a large scale are generally rare. Last week, Bitcoin saw its largest drop in nearly a year, down to 53,500, its lowest rate since February of this year. Chime in at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Here's Monday Sports with America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Baseball on Sunday, the Red Sox blanked the Yankees 3-0 last night. Rafael Devers homered twice, while Cutter Crawford and the crew held New York to 4 hits.
Cutter's in, splits over the plate. Fastball command was pretty good. And, yeah, it felt good. It's one of those outings where you feel like everything's kind of working for you.
Elsewhere, the Cubs shut out the Angels 5-0, a 3-hitter for Hayden Wesneski and company. The Braves hit 4 home runs and whitewashed the Phillies 6-0 behind the 5-hit stylings of Reynaldo Lopez and his orchestra. That makes 11 shutouts for Atlanta pitching this year. Tigers swept out the Reds 5-1. Tarek Skubal struck out a career-best 13. Marlins whipped the White Sox thanks to Jake Berger's 3-run walk-off shot against his old team. Christian Vasquez led off the bottom of the ninth with a dinger off his former club, lifting the Twins over the Astros. Francisco Lindor's 2-out 2-run single in the top of the ninth boosted the Mets past the Pirates. Blue Jays nipped the Mariners in 10. Guardians rallied past the Giants. Bo Naylor with a pinch-hit 3-run blast in the 6th inning. Diamondbacks drubbed the Padres. Eugenio Suarez homered and drove in 5. Rangers romped over the Rays, pounding out 19 hits, 4 apiece for Wyatt Langford and Jonah Heim. Orioles doubled up the A's. Royals rolled over the Rockies. Brewers battered the Dodgers, and the Cardinals nailed the Nationals. Baseball's All-Star Game is a week from Tuesday. Reserves and pitchers were announced on Sunday, and there are a total of 32 first-time selections among the 64 players heading to Arlington, Texas. That number could grow with injury replacements this week. The league-leading Phillies have 7 All-Stars, with 4 pitchers added to the 3 position players already voted in as National League starters. Wimbledon 4th round, the top American in the field, number 2 Coco Gauff, lost to fellow American Emma Navarro, closing out a rough first week for the top seeds. Only 2 of the top 10 women made it through the weekend. Navarro, seeded 19th, will meet 7th seed Jasmine Paolini, who lost last month's French Open final in the quarters. Men's top seed Yannick Sinner and defending champ Carlos Alcaraz, the 3 seed, advanced along with American 12 seed Tommy Paul. That's Monday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. When we return on America in the Morning, actor Alec Baldwin facing prison time. Trial begins this week. We'll have an update after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Well, clearly, a lot of people tried to beat the weekend heat by going indoors to see a movie. Kevin Carr has the big winners at the box office.
It was a despicable weekend at the movies.
Our new secret weapon, the Mega Minion.
Despicable Me 4 shot to the top of the charts, raking in $75 million for the 3-day and $123 million since it opened on Wednesday.
I love this place!
This moderately budgeted $100 million family film proved it's still one of the most profitable franchises on the planet.
This is Joy, coming to you live in Riley's mind. Make some noise!
Coming in at number 2 was another animated family film, Inside Out 2, which drew $33 million.
There's a part 2? We're going!
With more than $530 million domestic and $1.2 billion worldwide, this Pixar sequel is helping to save the summer box office.
I have a plan.
Third place belonged to A Quiet Place, Day One, with $21 million.
Nicely done. Thank you.
Ty West's horror trilogy finale, Maxine, came in fourth with a lower than expected but still respectable $6.7 million. Then rounding out the top five was Bad Boys Ride or Die with $6.5 million.
See, Mike, that's how you command the universe.
And coming in a distant seventh was Angel Studios' The Sound of Hope, The Story of Possum Trot with just over $3 million.
I'm not giving up on you. You can't give up on me either.
This inspirational film failed to ignite the box office like last year's The Sound of Freedom did over the same weekend. I'm Kevin Carr.
Actor Alec Baldwin will be in court this week facing a manslaughter charge during that shooting on the set of the movie Rust. Correspondent Haya Panjwani covers that and more.
I take the gun out slowly. I turn, I cock the pistol. Bang, it goes up. She hits the ground. She goes down. He goes down, screaming. It should have been a cold gun with no rounds inside or dummy rounds, cosmetic rounds. No flash. I've been doing this. I shot enough guns in my day in movies. I've never seen this before.
Jury selection begins this week for Alec Baldwin's trial for the shooting death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Baldwin was pointing a revolver at Hutchins in 2021 on the New Mexico set of the Western Rust when it fired and killed her. The prosecution will argue that Baldwin, as a producer, allowed for a dangerous environment and that, as an actor, used the gun in a way that he never should have.
Titanic was called the ship of dreams. And it was. It really was.
John Landau, an Oscar-winning producer who worked closely with director James Cameron on the Titanic and the Avatar series, has died. He was 63. Landau's partnership with Cameron led to 3 Oscar nominations and a Best Picture win for 1997's Titanic. In a statement, Cameron says Landau, quote, will be remembered as much for his vast generosity of spirit as for the movies themselves. I'm Haya Panjwani.
That's our show for today, Monday, July 8th, 2024. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.